So thanks, everybody. Welcome. We're so excited to have you here. This is a great day for us. I've been in the graphics industry dating from my time at Hewlett-Packard when I worked on design jet printers. If you're familiar with those, they're the great big graphics printers that do posters and stuff like that. And I also spent 10 years at Wacom, where I was responsible for the Cintiq line of products. So being in Xencelabs is a wonderful extension of that. I joined about 2 years ago, and of course, at that time, Xencelabs didn't actually yet exist. But what did exist was this seed of an idea to build a professional brand of drawing tools that would be second to none, and really be able to give artists a choice of digital drawing tools. I mean, at that time, and actually still today, professional artists really only had one brand to choose from. Sure, there are lots of inexpensive, cheap tablets out there, but if you wanted something that was professional, you really only had one choice. And we plan to change that. So what you're going to see today is the first of a line of products that we'll introduce over the coming months and years. And these are products that are co-designed with professional artists. And that's something you're going to hear throughout this presentation. So today for us is very exciting because this is the first time we show our beautiful baby to the public. And we think it's a gorgeous baby, and we hope you do as well. Now, before we move on, if you only remember two things from the presentation, these are the two themes that you're going to hear throughout. So one of which is the people you're going to meet throughout this have loads of experience in the graphics industry. Level drawing tools to the market, and they're going to be the first of many products. Also, I want you to know that all of these tools, we call them co-designed with artists, with professional artists. So this really ensures that the products have things in them that make them special for professional artists. Sometimes they're subtle things, and I'm going to point those out when we get to them, because if you're not in that business, you may not recognize some of that. But I'll point that out as we go through it. Okay. So one of the first things that is probably important to explain is, well, how do you pronounce this Xencelabs thing? So the where this word came from is the two ideas that we wanted to bring together. So a lot of us in this company have a lot of artistic and creative capabilities. We know our artists are in the creative world. So there's this idea of the senses and really trying to bring out that sense of it, if you will. But at the same time, we're bringing some innovation in terms of technology. We're bringing innovation in terms of the way we pull this product together. So we really wanted to blend those two things. So we came up with the word Xencelabs. You might ask, well, why didn't you use an S? Well, we happen to prefer the X. We think it gives a nicer look to the name. And as we sit with it for a while, that the name is just growing on us every day. So I think you're going to hear a lot from Xencelabs over the years. And you're the first people in the world to learn how to pronounce it, outside of the company anyway. You're the first people in the world to learn how to pronounce this word. So Xencelabs. Get it in there so you'll have it. All right, this is a slide of our North America team. It's a really talented bunch of people. Really like these folks. But I also want you to know that we have people from all over the world. We're really a global company. And this is just really only part of what we do, and we'll show you a little bit more on the others in a second here. But this team have just a ton of experience. You might be surprised to know that over half of these people worked at Wacom at some time. So you can see not only is it graphics experience, but it's experience in these kinds of products as well. Now, having said that, we are a global brand. The company that we come from has been around for around 30 years or so, and they've been developing drawing technologies all that time. And we're going to leverage some of those technologies in our products. So our company headquarters is in China, but we run the product on the company on a very global basis. So the North America team, for example, is responsible for product hardware design, for software design, for customer testing, etc. And the team here also did all of the initial brand development for the Xencelabs name. We have a manufacturing facility in Shenzhen, which is close to Hong Kong, if you're familiar with that. We have sales and marketing there as well that provides support for the other regions. Our whole engineering team is there, plus all of the functions you might expect from a global company. We've also got people in Europe, and Jean-Marc is with us today, who will be on the panel at the end. We have people in Japan, people in Korea, and so on. Now you'll see two people in the slide who are not here today. They would love to have been here, but it's 2 a.m. where they live, so that was a bit unreasonable to ask them to come. They are our CEO and president, Mr. Li and Mr. Zhang, and these are the guys who were responsible for the whole idea of this endeavor. And they hired a few of us back in 2019 to get this started. And they too are very passionate about this business, and if they could have been here, they would have. These are the folks who are going to be available for questions at the end of this presentation, and you'll get to know them a little bit better shortly. I wanted to give you a little bit of context for those of you who may be unfamiliar with this industry. I know some of you are from this industry, but some of you are not. These are the types of sub-industries, or whatever you want to call it, from mixed media arts, graphic design, educational institutions, particularly those who have a focus on art and design, animation of 2D, 3D, and so on. You can read down the list. So these products are targeted to these types of artists, the people who work in these industries. We're going to give you our handy dandy video now. I have to turn on a couple of things just so you can actually hear the sound. And here we go. Okay, I have to turn off the little sound things here. Okay, that's the, oops, I was doing it again. Let's go on to the next one. Here we go. All right, the video is good, but you probably didn't want to see it 3 times. So our product is a very beautiful product. We're very proud of it. Now, some of you might be asking some questions like, well, why a pen tablet? Again, if you're not so familiar with this industry, this might be something that you're a little puzzled about. What is this thing? So a pen tablet is a device that you draw on, and then it moves the cursor on the screen, and it has a number of advantages. For example, when you're drawing, I mean, the most basic thing is that it is very precise. There are people who use a mouse, but it's not really, but you won't find any professionals using a mouse for drawing, because it's using a pen on a tablet like this is extremely accurate. It's extremely comfortable compared to alternatives. Now, there are other kinds of drawing tools, and we're going to be releasing those over the next few months and years. But one of the big advantages, and why we started with this, is because these kinds of tablets, they're the biggest part of the market in terms of the number of units sold, but they give you a number of advantages. For example, when you're drawing on the tablet, your hand is not blocking the screen. It's a lot less expensive than an alternative, which might be a pen display. And probably one of the bigger ones is you can use it with large displays. So when you're an artist and you're trying to draw, having a larger display is very helpful for a number of reasons. Now, I have had questions before when people will say, well, why not use an iPad or something like that? And there's a number of good reasons for that. Now, a lot of artists do use an iPad for sketching and for things that are not as core to their main job. But the biggest reason you would want something like this is because, unlike an iPad, you can use this with a large display, which is much more comfortable for drawing. You can also use it with professional software. So if you're running on a proper full-size Mac computer or a PC or in Linux, a lot of software is also written. A lot of artists use Linux, and you just can't use an iPad for something like that. So these are very important tools for a lot of artists. They're also very portable. They're perfect for remote working, and they don't take up a whole lot of space on your desk. I want to tell you just a little bit about how these products were designed. We mentioned previously that we've used a lot of artists in our product design, and that gives rise to what you might think are small improvements or features in the product, but these are things that are actually really important to customers. One of the most important, or the most important actually, is the drawing feel. If you have a bad drawing feel for an artist, anything else you put on the product really doesn't matter. So you have to start off with that. And that's where we began. So when we first started doing these products, we went out to artists and we took all the tablets we could find. We had them draw on different ones. And we got from them what they liked and what they didn't like about the products. And then we took that input and we created some prototypes, created mock-ups, and then we go back to the artists and we say, okay, does this do what you had told us? And they try it out or whatever and say, well, that bit does, that bit doesn't. We go back and we do it over again. So we had this iterative process of working with artists to really fine tune how this is. The drawing experience was the biggest part of that, obviously. But the other thing that's really important are the ergonomics, right? Because artists draw for hours on end. So there's a couple of things that immediately come to mind that we implemented here. One, you might think is really minor, but down here where number 7 is a curve. You see that curve? When we first went out to artists, one of the things that they told us was, well, can you get rid of the crumb catcher? And we say, well, crumb catcher, what is the crumb catcher? Well, the crumb catcher for them was this seam that goes along the bottom of the drawing area. It's very close to the bottom edge of the tablet. And they would feel the crumb catcher on their hand as they were drawing, because it was part of the surface of where they're drawing. So it sounds like a minor thing, but we had to work quite hard to come up with a way to put a bend on that so that the drawing surface wouldn't pop up over time, that it would stay where we put it, and to get the seam just in the perfect place so that when the artist is drawing, they can't feel that. They may still drop crumbs in it, however, but at least they won't feel it. The other thing that was really important, you might notice if you're familiar with other tablets, is we took off all the buttons. On other competing tablets, there are buttons on the left-hand side. And what we found was that a good number of customers actually don't want buttons on the tablet. They still want buttons, but they don't necessarily want them on the tablet. So we moved those to a device that you saw in the video called what we call the Quick Keys device. And I'll show you that in a few minutes. But this enabled us to get it off, to make the tablet uncluttered, to make it just a beautiful drawing surface. It's extremely thin, and it can be run wireless or wired. It's also got, it might sound like a minor thing, but again, it's one of these attention to detail things. It's got a 16:9 aspect ratio to match most most screens these days. Other tablets are not the 16:9 ratio. So if you were to put like a circle template on this surface here, with ours, it'll give you a full proper circle. Yeah, with some of the other tablets out there, if you might get an ellipse, because the aspect ratio on the tablet, their tablet, is different from the screen that they're actually using. And then we did some just kind of, they have purpose, but also add a little bit of fun. So these are the corner lights that you see here. So these mark the active display, the active drawing area. So this is where you can draw. But we also decided to make, well, let's make them a light, and you can change the color. We use them for battery warning level when your battery's getting low. But it turns out that was a good thing to do, because most of the artists we test the products with love these little corner lights. All right. Now, this is really important. The pen might be mightier than the sword, so two pens obviously are even more mighty. But if you look at artists, and this is back to this whole idea of co-designing the product with artists. Artists were just part of everything we've done as we developed this product. But if you look at artists, you will notice they're all different. Some have got big hands, some have got small hands, and naturally that means if you got a big hand, you might want a bigger pen. If you've got small hands, you might want a smaller pen. And so that's what we've done. We provided two kinds of pens that allow the artist to choose. We really wanted to give artists a choice. Also, these two different kinds of pens support two different kinds of workflows. If you're a 2D artist or a 3D artist, a 3D artist, you might want extra buttons because a 3D button is more useful for 3D applications. And then, of course, it has to have a fantastic drawing experience. So we took pens, again, as we did with tablets. We took all different kinds of pens. We had people play with, hexagonal ones or triangular ones or different shapes, different kinds of nibs, to really get what the artist found to be the most comfortable. And, with two pens, you're never going to get everybody probably, but I think we found some really good sweet spots. We also realized that artists some are heavy-handed. Not only do they have bigger hands or smaller hands, but some artists are heavy-handed, and some artists are very light-handed. And so we wanted also to make it adjustable for them. So these pens have the lightest activation force in the industry of about 3 grams. Most of our competitors are at least 5 to 8 grams or more. So if you're an artist with very light drawing feel, you can make the lightest stroke and you'll get just an extremely light mark. Now, if you're a heavy-handed artist, you can change the settings a little bit to make it more useful to you. So the bottom line is, in all that we do with these products, we really try to give the artist choice and flexibility. We want this product to be the tablet that fits their needs, including the pens, including the accessories, everything. And part of that is making sure that we provide all the bits that go around this. So we want the pen case to be a useful pen case. You'll see other pen storage devices that are like tubes that just roll off the desk. We wanted to really have something that was solid, would protect the pens, protect the accessories that go in with it, make it obvious where the extra nibs are by putting them in the lid. And it's a beautiful, well-designed pen case. A minor thing, you might say, but still nonetheless useful to the customer. Now, the quick keys. We're particularly proud of the quick keys. Now, again, if you're unfamiliar with shortcut keys, if you're an artist, shortcut keys are very important. You can use menus in programs like Photoshop and other programs to accomplish what you want to do. But if you're under a time pressure, you've got a time deadline you've got to make. Programs like Photoshop allow their users to create key combinations that allow, instead of using the menus, you can use these key combinations. But these keys have some pros and cons to them. Now, if you talk to artists about the buttons on a tablet, you'll find some products in the market that have buttons on the side of the tablet. Now, the idea is that those buttons are used for programming the shortcut keys. But what you'll find is that when you talk to artists, is about 30% of them actually hate having buttons on the tablet, and they turn them off because they accidentally activate them. Their hand will touch them as they're drawing. So 30% hate them, want to turn them off. Now 30% on the other hand, another 30% love keys. So they want more keys than you can possibly ever give, and 8's not enough. And then you've got the rest of the folks in the middle who like the idea of having these kinds of shortcut keys on the connected with the tablet, but they try them for a few days and then they give up because they can't remember what they assigned it to, or they don't know how to program it, or something like that. So what we've tried to do with the quick keys is to address all three of those. So if you're a customer that hates having keys on the tablet, no problem. Our tablet has no keys on it, other than 3 at the top, which we'll talk about in a second. But you don't have to have this. But if you are a person that wants as many buttons as you can get, this will actually allow you to have up to 40 programmable buttons per application. So if you're in Photoshop, you can have 40 for Photoshop, you can have 40 for Illustrator, 40 for whatever other thing you want. And you can see what they're set to because it's a little screen on here that tells you. This little button here at the bottom allows you to have these sets. We have what's called sets. So there's 5 sets of 8, and that gives you 40 per application. We also on here have a physical dial. Now that turns out that, again, from the research we showed customers lots of different kinds of ways to do this, and the dial was by far the most preferred because it gives you accuracy, precision as you're controlling it. You can it has 4 modes, so the kinds of things you'd use it for would be to increase the brush size, to zoom in on the screen, stuff like that. It's got a little color ring around it to help you remember when you've changed to a different setting. But it does show up on here as well when you press it, but it's just a persistent way to help you remember. We've preloaded a bunch of applications already to give people a place to start. Can last 50 hours continuous use. We've got one of the things that's important here, it's not actually on the list here, is you can control the sleep amount. In some competitive devices, you can't. It turns itself off after 10 minutes, and then you've got to turn it all back on again. With this, you can set the time that you prefer. You can have it not turn off ever if you prefer, or pick longer or shorter periods of time. Another thing that's really important, particularly in educational places or in some studios, is security locks. So we've got a Kensington Nano Locks log on here. Of course, this can be wireless or wired, and if you buy it as a separate accessory, it comes with a really nice little case for it as well. You can put it on different rotational angles if you prefer to do that. We talked about the Nano Lock. We also have a Nano Lock on the tablet as well. And it comes with a variety of accessories. We talked about the pen case already. We have a really nice carrying sleeve that will hold both, or all of the accessories, and the tablet will go in here. We just really didn't want to nickel and dime our artists. We really wanted to include everything necessary to use the tablet out of the box. It's just something that's irritating when you have to, you buy something, then you got to buy all these other things to make it work well as well. So we threw in a glove, and we even have a nice handy dandy sticker of our logo, if that floats your boat. There are 3 buttons on the tablet which we kept. They're primarily for operating the tablet, so they're not related to applications. You can actually reprogram these if you wanted to do that. We did that, make that available to customers. But the button on the left makes it easy to go to the tablet settings. We really wanted customers to find that easy. We didn't want that to be a chore. The middle one helps you adjust the pen pressures, and then the one on the right is for switching displays. Many artists have multiple displays, and you can map the tablet to one display or to all the displays if you wish. But if you're mapping it to one display, you may want to switch around from one display to another. So by pressing that button, it lets you switch the display. But when you press the tablet settings, where you end up is here. Now, as with the hardware products, we researched a lot of different drivers in the market, and we spent a lot of time on the driver. We were building it from scratch, and that's not a trivial thing to do. One of the first things we wanted it to be was intuitive and attractive. And we also wanted to address the complaints that artists had about other tablet drivers that they'd experienced. So obviously, you know, we've got a picture of the products on here. So when you want to change the settings, you know exactly which thing to press. It's very easy. These are some of the things that we heard from customers that were important. For example, and again, they're things that you would think were obvious or maybe simplistic in some respects, but it's those little details that make the difference. For example, on other drivers, when you do a driver update, you lose all your settings. So we wanted to make sure that wasn't the case. So when you update your driver from us, it doesn't affect your settings. Your settings are persistent. We allow settings to be made for most functions, not all, but for most functions to be by application. So if you're running an application where some features are more important to you than others versus a different application, you can do that. You can select the colors on the dial and on the corner lights, for example. You can export your system, your settings to a file, and there's various other things in there as well, such as the ability to adjust the timer, not just of the quick keys, but also of the tablet itself as well. Quick keys obviously has got a lot of powers, a lot of things you can do with quick keys. So one of the most important, of course, is being able to set keys. So here we have a nice clear way. When you touch these different things, it highlights up here so you know which one you're on. But you can put in this one here says Command Z or Z if you're from Canada or the UK, which does undo. So you can name it undo, you can name it redo, copy, paste, whatever, all these kinds of things. And this is where you can see on there's these kind of grayed out sets here as well. These are the other sets that you can use, and you can name those sets. So you can have friendly names, so you don't have to remember all the keystrokes necessarily. And then, of course, on the OLED display, it shows that setting that you made. You've got 4 modes that you can program, change as you wish for the dial, and you can change the color. You can change brightness. I mean, we try to think of everything that could possibly, be important to artists. Obviously, some artists don't want colors on there, or they don't want bright lights. So you can change the brightness. You can turn it off if you want, and that includes the brightness of the display as well. You can rotate the keys, as you saw earlier. You can rename the controller if you're on some artists actually in smaller studios might share computers. So you can rename your particular controller settings. So if you're sharing with somebody else, it can be Michael's controller or Fred's controller or whatever. And then of course you can set the sleep timer. All right, all of this comes for a very reasonable price. You can see the immense value that is in these products. So the tablet, without the quick keys, we ship them with 3 SKUs. So it's $279.99 for the tablet, which is a very competitive price. Comes with a ton of things, as you've seen through the earlier part of the presentation. Or you can add the quick keys, and you save yourself a little bit of money there, and that's $359.99. So you get the 2 pens, you get the case, you get all the little bits and pieces that come with it. Again, a very competitive price. compared to other products in the market at the professional level. And then the quick keys, if you prefer to buy it separately, that's $89.99, and also comes with a case. All right, that's my my pitch. Hopefully that's inspired some thoughts and questions. And I think we're now going to move to the Q&A. Laura, are you going to manage that?
Yes, thank you, Michael. I think this is very exciting news for the industry, and of course to all of those users who can probably not wait to get their hands on a pen tablet as from tomorrow. I will now open the floor to questions. Michael, I don't know if for this Q&A you can stop sharing screen so that we can all see, there we go, all your faces. I'm just going to have a look at the chat now. Just as a quick reminder to everyone, you do have the chat box for any questions right on the side or on below where it says chat. You can just click on that. During the presentation, we did receive one from Itai over at Neo Camera, who asks, does it letterbox when using with screens of different aspect ratio, or does it scale uniformly?
It adjusts the active area, if I'm understanding the question correctly. So if you've got a particularly wide screen, for example, it would adjust the size of the active area.
I think this one's quite an interesting one, and I think you probably have an answer. How are you able to make such a similar product to Wacom's without stealing their design, which is not exactly stealing it because it's a very different one? So I'll hand over that one.
Yeah, it is actually. It's yeah. We tried deliberately to not copy. We looked at a variety of products, so not just Wacom's products as well, but obviously it's a mature industry. It's like when you look at cars, right? You know, for when you want to slipstream a car for, you know, the reduced drag, for example, it pushes you in a certain direction. So that, of course, there are similarities in that, yeah, you got to draw on the surface, right? But what we tried to do was really have a completely open mind. So we didn't want to just, and you'll see this in other products on the market where they're literally just copies. We really didn't want to do that. Now, when we talk to artists, of course, they have certain preferences, and we wanted to honor those preferences. So, but you'll see lots of differences where we have made changes. So I mentioned already the curve on the palm rest, for example. The way that we've designed the driver is completely different from what Wacom has in it. And and the driver's a huge thing, really. I mean, it may not seem it, but there's a ton of, I was kind of surprised myself, actually, because I've never done one from scratch. You know, when I was at my previous company, we'd you know, do iterations of the existing driver. But this, we're doing it completely from scratch. So we were able to really be able to do things that you can't do when you're iterating.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of different design aspects that are not like Wacom at all. I was there for many years. I worked with many enterprise customers, and we sat and we talked with these enterprise customers, and we asked them what they needed and what they wanted, and that's what we put in the product.
Great. We have another question from Glenn Southern. You listed some fantastic points and features. What do you see as your #1 unique selling point?
I would say the drawing obviously has to be fantastic. I mean, that's the most important thing. But after that, I would say it's all in the little details and features that we put in there to provide comfort for the artist in ergonomics. But at the end of the day, it has to come back to drawing. So I'd say our drawing is amazing. The value we put in is also amazing. And that's not just because of value, it is, but it's also because that's what customers need in order to do a good job. So if you've got a bigger hand or a smaller hand, or you're working on one kind of application versus another kind of application, you're going to have to get another pen, so we didn't want them to have to do that. We wanted to give the customer as much as possible, as many as possible customers, all the things they needed from the beginning. So yeah, it's more value, but that isn't what drove it. What drove it was we want artists to have a product that really fits them extremely well. Oh, and by the way, if we give 2 pens, that's more value. Yeah, so we got that along with it as well. But really, it was around that comfort and giving a great experience to the artist.
Jess from Android Central asks us, do you have any plans to make a screen-based drawing tablet in the future?
Yes.
Perfect. We'll take it the yes.
We'll have a full line of products over time. It just, we're a new company, a new brand. It just takes a little time.
Fahim is asking us, how does palm rejection work, or do you need a glove?
So I'm glad you asked that. We didn't really talk about this. We took touch off because the only reason you get palm rejection issues is when you have touch, and we didn't actually mention that. One of the first things that artists told us was, get rid of that touch, would you? We're like, really, why? I mean, we kind of sort of figured we knew the answer to that, but the vast majority of artists on this kind of a tablet turn touch off. That's the first thing they do. Yeah, okay, there's a few people that might like touch, but the vast majority, touch is more of a nuisance and an irritation. So we didn't even put it in the first place.
There's a lot of questions coming in, which is good to see. I'll just continue down the list. Do the quick keys attach to the tablet so that we don't have to juggle between devices?
No, they don't attach. We actually started off with a design. This comes back to the, what the very first question. When our very first prototype actually was attached or attachable, and you could kind of lock it in or pull it apart or whatever. But the vast majority of the customers actually wanted it separate. They didn't want to have it attached because it's ergonomically, it's not ideal, right? Because you're forcing the hand to in a certain position. So the vast majority of the customers we talked to wanted to have it separate, so they could change the orientation. They could put it, horizontal, or if they're left-handed or right-handed, now they don't have to flip the tablet around and all this kind of thing. So it was very strong feedback that people did not want it attached or attachable. It was no value.
Roderick highlights that he noticed a battery icon, and whether is the tablet wireless? Yes,
it's both. You can use it as a USB tablet, or you can use it wireless. Sorry, I'm answering all the questions. Maybe ask some other people.
So the next one's up for grabs then. Is there a delay or configuration for latency?
Anybody else, or shall I answer?
Oh no, I think, yeah, I can answer that. I mean, there's no latency really whatsoever. I mean, it's just like a high-end, what you'd expect out of a high-end drawing tablet. It's brilliant. I think I was super impressed from day one when I saw it, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. So I think you'll be very pleasantly surprised.
So DaCosta is an artist himself. He's quite well known in the industry, and just in case you didn't know, so you're hearing a comment from a real artist.
Fahim is asking about compatibility. He says, you mentioned it working with traditional operating systems, including Linux. Will it work with iOS, iPhone, iPad, Android, Chromebook, etc.?
Most of those, no. Really, there's not a lot of advantage to doing that. Some of the entry-level type products will attach to Android and the like. That wasn't a priority for us. We really spent our focus on professional tools, professional software in particular. Those questions, Chromebook, oh yeah, Chromebooks. We are working on that. So that one's a possibility, but I can't confirm it quite yet.
And Linux is coming.
Yeah, Linux for sure.
Another
Prepared.
question, very important one, is when will it be available for purchase?
Our website goes live tomorrow or tonight, and the Amazon store also goes live. So we should have some product. Obviously, we're waiting for some inventory. So, we're excited it's coming in. So, we'll get the product to you as soon as we get it in stock. So yes, tomorrow.
And
I
another,
like the baby shower question. Can we not answer that one? Because yes, we'll be putting our thing up on Amazon if you want to buy presents.
there's some questions also regarding other products that will be launching during the year or not. So just on the future, any plans to launch other products this year? If so, will they or later ones be related to drawing tablets as well?
We have nothing to announce at this point. All I can tell you is that it is our intention to be a full product line company for professional tools.
And Itai just wants a little addition to that question that he was asking about the aspect ratio. Do the corner lights move when you change the usable area?
No, we tried to make them do that, but unfortunately that added a ton of cost, and it was way more complicated than the value that it was worth. So no, we didn't.
And then we have picked up on the launch timeframe, Jess. So as Hannah announced, the website will be available from tonight/tomorrow morning. What's the minimum Mac OS required? Asks Joanne Sherwood.
Ooh, good question.
Mike, you want to do that one?
Yeah, I'll grab that one. That's a great question. So on the Mac side for Mac OS, it's going to be 10.12 and newer. On the Windows side, it'll be Windows 7 and newer. So we do go back quite a few versions on the Mac side and also the Windows side too.
And how do the tablet and quick keys charge? Separate wires, wireless?
I'll grab that one too. They both charge via the USB cable that comes with your tablet. One of the neat things, and I know Michael was pushing this, is that when you purchase our tablet, you have everything you need to get up and running. And so if you purchase the bundle with the quick keys, you receive a USB cable that will charge the quick keys. You will plug it into your computer. The charge time is 2 to 4 hours, and it will give you approximately 50 hours of runtime. And on the tablet side, you also receive a USB cable that you'll plug into your computer, 2 to 4 hours to fully charge your tablet. And it gives you between 8 and 10 hours of runtime. So you get a full day's use out of both of the devices in wireless mode once they're fully charged.
Another question we have is, what are measurements of medium?
Good question. I don't remember. Let's see. Hang on. It was on the thing.
And in the meantime, maybe for someone else, do you have any photographers who have been working on the beta testing?
We do.
I'm a photographer, and yes, I've been using it quite a lot. So
yes, same here. I'm not a professional photographer anymore, but I do take a lot of photographs and edit it through Lightroom and Photoshop and other applications too. And it's just, again, as Michael was describing it, the feel of the tablet, the way the large pen sits in your hand, the minimalist form of the tablet is just incredible.
I'll chime in and say this too, that I worked for Adobe for 10 years, and one of my roles was the National Photoshop Specialist. And so I live in Photoshop and Lightroom. And I tell you, I was recently at Wacom, and when I was brought over, I was blown away with just how it responds and how nicely it responds inside of Photoshop. No lag. I haven't run into any instance where I've been running into lag at all. So that's one of the big issues for me that I really, really loved about it. So that's just my own 2 cents.
Yeah, and then I want to just state that the markets that Michael showed earlier in one of the earlier slides is we're taking strides to make sure that we have ambassadors and influencers that are getting our products ahead of time. We have a lot of these creatives under NDAs right now that are testing it and giving us feedback. So we have industrial designers, we have visual effects artists working on things like Nuke and Houdini. We have Photoshop designers. I used to work at Autodesk years ago. I've got the partners programs. We're working with all the different teams. I worked at Foundry. I've got those guys working with Modo. Some of the things that you saw on this presentation was also built and designed in Modo. So you're seeing like 3D prototypes all done, and they used our tablets. So we're really excited, just trying to make sure all types of creatives and artists are trying our products. Very important.
I have the specifications now. The
If I can
sizes.
add one thing about the,
Go ahead.
Go finish up.
sorry, if I can just want to add one thing about the latency factor. The latency factor really comes from like the software, and it depends on how you're pushing the software. So our tablet is extremely responsive. So really, if you're like anything on the market, if you're going to push it and really the brush is super heavy in Photoshop, and it's really complicated, you're going to get some kind of effect depending on the specs on your machine. So just to make that a thing out there.
Specifications, you want them in inches or in millimeters? Let me give you in
Just give
millimeters.
both. Yeah, what you have in front.
Okay.
Both.
All right, both. It's 320.5 by 232.9 by 8 millimeters. That's in millimeters. In inches, it's 12.6 by 9.2 by 0.3.
Perfect. And that's our time is up, I'm afraid, but surely if any journalists do have any other questions, they can just send us an email directly to the Bubble team or to the Xencelabs team also, and we'll be happy to get back to you as soon as possible with the responses.
And the gift registry for Amazon as well.
There is, yes, Dragos is asking an important question that I will re-emphasize. The embargo lifts tomorrow, Wednesday 24th at 10 a.m. Pacific time, which is 1 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. if you're in the UK or European markets. Perfect. Thank you very much, Xencelabs team, for taking us through the whole presentation and through all of the efforts that you've been putting together. And we're all very excited to seeing the pen tablet launched and the Xencelabs website tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you
Thank you
for joining.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.